I built the projects myself. And that was revealing. If something is wrong, we have to first think how to continue.
It will also be a tour of his projects in the university and maybe a follow-up in a different country.
This is the final state, and this is the supporting structure we built with our own waste. What waste do you have? And instead of throwing it away, we just crushed it.
Welcome to the second part of our guide through Mr. Borrego's life as an architect and a lot of projects that Mr. Borrego did with the students. Can you walk us through your educational projects and explain the souls that were inside these projects?
In general,
whatever you want.
Your favorite project.
Favorite project. I will select for your question these two models.
Hold on, let me give them to you.
That can summarize a bit of my interest in teaching at university with these two models. And this is the model of the same project. These two models, the proposal for a labyrinth fragment of one group of students. They did first this model, and later we asked them to build this space with a specific material that is this black MDF of 3 millimeters, is kind of artificial wood. They could use this material and the laser cutter, and they had to reproduce this space with that material and without glue. So they had to figure out how they could join these rigid pieces so that they would stay stable. And if you see, the complexity of the model is much higher. And here, the students, they did not only work on the representation of the pieces, but they also had to do execution plans to put it into laser cutter, and they had to put it together. And then they had problems because the pieces, they would not fit together. They were too big, or they didn't have enough material, and they had to simplify things. And that constructive problems is exactly what you find when you build architecture. So once you experience these problems, then when you go back to the design phase, you can consider this knowledge. And this is what I think that is very important, to move back and forth from design to construction, or from ideal dreams and reality.
Do you think your courses are challenging?
I think the challenge is supposed to be very simple, because it's not that I force them to be complex, it's that the reality is difficult. In another of our courses, free elective course, we asked our students, what could we do with our own waste? And in this case of university, where we produce thousands of models every semester, and most of them, we throw them away. We only pick up some of them for exhibitions, but at the end, most of them are destroyed and just thrown in the waste. And the other kind of rests in the university. And for 1 year, we were collecting them. So we wrote an email to all departments and we say, please do not throw anything away. We are going to keep it. And instead of throwing it away, we just crushed it. And we found a way of producing elements with this crushed material. In parallel to this research, this material research, we designed a structure that I will show you later. We have a nice model outside. And this is one of the blocks that we produced in this room. We can see some of the tests here behind, some of the formworks. So the production, when you produce this, it's wet and it's very weak. And then it has to dry for 3 weeks. So we were placing them in the shelves. And once this was finished, we were able to produce a 6 meters dome that we built it also together with students. The process of this pavilion, that we call it crush up, because the waste that we crush, but we don't crush it to destroy it, we crush it to upcycle it. So it is not anymore waste, it's already a construction material. With this, we produced an architectural piece. And here we have two models, 1 to 10. So it's a reduced version of the crush-up pavilion. Two versions, because this is the final state, and this is the supporting structure that we have to build to be able to build it. So before we put the last piece, this is not stable. So we have to hold it from below as if a lot of people would be holding it, but it's a kind of under structure. And it's deployable. It can become very small, and then we take it in the van. We went to the Klima Festival in the Berlin Station. We put it in the middle, we open it, and then we can start putting all the blocks. They are supported by these elements. And once we put the last piece, this dome is stable, and we are able to remove this. And the way of removing it is deploying, so making it smaller, folding it down, and then we can put it out through the door. So you see that this pavilion has one door, so that we can pass it through the door.
Last project. No.
But cool plastic.
Yes. So this is the final version, well, final now, because we will continue this semester with this project of this research that started after crash up. We have designed a pavilion with our own waste here at TU Berlin, and it was very successful. And I received a phone call from Aarhus, and they told us, hey, can we do this crash up pavilion in Aarhus? And we said, yes, but this is something we built with our own waste. What waste do you have? And then they said, okay, we are a big city. And so we started analyzing what a city as Aarhus has as waste. And we did one semester with a lot of different projects, recycling a lot of textiles and different kind of plastics, bicycles. We found out that this plastic, LDPE, that is the plastic of the plastic bags, that is usually destroyed, sent to the dumps or burned for energy, that it would be a nice potential to produce architecture, because in architecture we can keep the plastic and not burn it, not put it in the landscape, and then we can save material, because we are not in favor of the use of plastic, of the production of plastic, but we're in favor of saving the plastic from being burned or from being placed in the ocean or in the rivers. If we keep it in architecture, it's better than in other places. So we were doing projects with students through several semesters, and we finally did families of domes. And we are very interested with this one that has 2 layers, that is very efficient structurally. So with very little material, it can be very stable. And this is what we are going to develop next semester. And we are doing in parallel two researches. So on the one side, we are defining the geometry of the dome, but at the same time, with students, we are producing molds, and with injection, we are creating pieces that are made with waste, with plastic, with LDPE that we have collected in a dump in Berlin, in a company that it is separating the waste, and they gave us 1 cubic meter that we have there of LDPE, and with this we are producing these pieces. Yes, it is a bit flexible. Our goal is to produce a big dome like the crush up, but in this case with recycled plastic. In this case we are not working with digital fabrication as in other courses. In this case, we are in a more conventional architectural approach to a site. This is one facility in Porto that is the old slaughterhouse that is going to be refurbished. There are some existing buildings that you can see them below, and they give this pattern. And we are proposing an intervention to increase the density on this area that in moment is abandoned. With students, we did collective design for the master plan, and the result of this collective analysis divided the plot in different fragments, and each student would develop one of those fragments to introduce a project that would include housing project that they can select themselves. So with this process, in this aim to connect a reality with design at university, we think that we face students with problems of the urban planning, because usually as architects we arrive to places and we don't know who has designed the urban plan and why my neighbor is here and why is he higher. In this case it's quite interesting because they have designed it themselves, and then they have to experience their own restrictions to define their own units. That in fact is quite similar to what happens in the real city.
This is projects from graduation, so for
yes,
bachelor.
master thesis, the final project.
Master
thesis. Each student is doing one of those fragments.
Okay.
And this is part of the submission. They did other things, but this is the collective model. They built the model together, and each student was responsible besides for his own piece. A factory within the university is very important because the students can be at the same time designers and producers, and then they can combine those.
We talked a lot about your student work, and I'm just curious if you could offer any advice to young students or architects that want to do great things as architects. What would you say to them?
Okay, that's a very big responsibility. I would say what I would do that is connected to what I have been explaining through this conversation. But at the end, I think that the most important thing is that all students find their motivation or their interest and that they go for it. They are going to be much better if they develop themselves in a field that they are motivated. My advice would be work hard to find what is your motivation in architecture and go for it. Because if you find what you like, you will not have to work anymore, because your work will not be any punishment. It will be a pleasure.
Did you find what you like?
I think I did.
Okay.
Yes.
It was important to ask.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Borrego, for your time. and this is not over. Okay.